Hello and welcome to episode 110 of Radio Gorepress. I'm your host, Phil. With me, as always, is Sarah. How you doing,
Hello.
Sarah?
I'm all right. I am about to expire from the heat, but otherwise, pretty good.
Tell me about it. We are down a Rosie again. She is recovering from her recent bladderectomy, whatever it was she went through.
Is that the technical term?
I think so, yeah. But we wish her a speedy recovery. Hopefully she'll be back soon. However, this week we have a special guest. Joining us this week is a member of OG Gorepress, Jamie. Why don't you say hi to people, Jamie?
Hello, people. I am Jamie, formerly known as Dangerous Jamie, I guess. I'm 36, so no longer dangerous. Although I might fall over on the toilet, I don't know. But it could happen.
Pretty dangerous, to be fair.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm really, really glad to be here. It's fun. I've not done a podcast in a really long time. So, yeah, fun. Stoked.
I feel like we should probably preface this by saying that, do you know, it's like, I think it's either 10 or 11, I think it might be 11 years next month that we started podcasting, and you are responsible for me doing this now. So apologise to the people.
I mean, you're responsible for your own mess, Sarah.
That's what my therapist keeps telling me. I don't believe it.
You should stop shitting on the floor.
It's my cat. It's not me, I swear.
Why are you taking your cat to therapy?
You've not met my cat, clearly. He needs it more than most of us.
I feel we need to apologise quickly this episode because it's really hot and we all have fans going. So if you can hear it in the back, okay, 2/3 of us have fans going. Miss Pedantic.
Don't apologise on behalf of me.
So yeah, if you hear any suspicious background noise, that's what it is.
That's what it is. It's nothing else. I promise you.
Exactly. So without that out the way. I guess we should talk about our film this week, which
do we have to?
We do, don't we?
Can we not?
Be pretty rubbish podcast otherwise.
Go on then, I guess.
This week we are covering Kevin Smith's Tusk.
Yeah.
Whose choice was this?
I'm so bad at choosing films to podcast about.
Your choice was this.
Yeah. Oh, god damn it. I could have thrown Rosie under the bus. Fuck. It was Rosie. It was all Rosie.
Oh, yeah. That's all right. I'll just, edit around that, Sarah.
Seamless. Yeah, no, it was my decision. And I came to regret that. This was not a first watch for me.
Okay.
So you knew. You already knew.
Yeah, exactly. I walked into this with both eyes open. I'm just stupid. I think I watched this very shortly after it came out. And I remember distinctly watching it with my partner at the time. And we just spent the entire running time just looking at one another in disbelief. For an hour and 40 minutes. And yeah, I repeated that experience by myself on Monday.
I think that's one of the key things about this film is that it's an hour and 40 minutes and it feels like it's about an hour and 38 minutes too long.
I would say it's an hour and 40 minutes too long, if we're being honest. I don't know.
We've set the tone pretty well for what we all think of this movie now.
Yeah, the review at the end will come as no surprise to anyone. I think my motivation for choosing this is that I just want everyone else to suffer.
I think you should bring that up in therapy.
Make a note of that. Okay. So, have you seen this before as well, Jamie?
Yes.
I figured you might have done. What
Walrus,
about you,
yes.
Phil?
It's how I'm going to say yes to every question.
No.
Is Walrus, yes.
Walrus, no. That was literally one of my notes, was just Walrus, no. What about you, Phil? Was this a first time watch?
This was a first watch. I knew the concept because, it was pretty well known what this film is about these days. But yeah, it was entirely first watch for me. So yeah,
You're welcome.
it was certainly an experience. Before we jump into it, I'm going to read a bit of a synopsis because it seems like a good point to do so, just in case anyone hasn't heard. When podcaster Wallace travels to Canada to interview someone, he winds up meeting a strange man named Hal, who has many stories to tell about his past life during his interview. Wallace wakes up the next day to finding out Hal isn't the person he thought he was. Hal has plans to surgically and mentally turn Wallace into a walrus. I mean, not the best written synopsis, but I think that does the job of describing
Absolutely gets the job done, yeah.
what this film's about.
I feel weird talking about this film. This feels too meta because we're podcasting about a film about podcasters that was conjured up on a podcast.
Yeah.
And it feels a little bit strange.
I mean, maybe it's a cautionary tale for any time we think about doing Gorepress productions.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Yeah, if Clowntown never makes it to...
I'm still annoyed. I'm still very upset that somebody beat us to Clowntown.
I know. I haven't watched it out of sheer spite.
And prevenge.
Yes. But that's a different kind of prevenge.
It was. Not your version.
Of revenge.
I think the best part about your idea was the tagline more than anything else.
Do unto others before they do unto you.
Yeah. So really what Kevin Smith should have done is start with the tagline and worked backwards.
Absolutely.
That's where you get the gold ideas.
I mean, he started with not very much and definitely worked backwards here, didn't he? I have to preface this with I actually love this film.
Do you?
I mean, it's
for real.
It's objectively a big pile of dog shit. But
yeah.
When has that ever stopped me loving anything?
That's true. We did just have a conversation off air about how much you love Necromantic.
And I stand by that, and I will continue to stand by that, and my explanation for why.
That's fair enough. Who are we to argue? I am also going to get you to justify why you think Tusk is good, though. Well, all right. I'll rephrase that. Why you enjoy Tusk. Because the two are very different things.
I mean, the main reason why I enjoy Tusk is that Michael Parks absolutely fucking rips. He is an absolute machine. And give or take the awkward scene with him and Johnny Depp.
We'll come to that. I have thoughts.
But besides that, I think he just like smashes an absolute performance into the moon. It's incredible.
I mean, he is without doubt the best part of the entire film.
Yeah, I was about to say like that is a valid like bit of praise towards this film. One of the perhaps the few bits of praise I will level towards it, but it's praise nonetheless.
I mean, it was sad that it came so close before his passing because he'd had such an insanely good career, and then to like go out on Tusk was unfortunate, I guess.
He did. It's a shame because he actually did die being gored to death by a man that he'd sewed into a walrus suit.
Did he?
Yeah.
So it was a sort of poetic justice, really, I think.
Case of life imitating art, if you can call this art.
I mean, Kevin Smith's a modern day Rasputin, really.
Said no one ever. Prophetic he is not.
They wrote a Boney M song about him.
Was it Babylon?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Oh, I knew this was going to be chaos. Straight out of the gate. Was this a mistake? So between first viewing and this rewatch, I had completely forgotten that this was A24.
I wrote the same thing, yeah.
Did you?
Had no idea. I saw it and was like, oh, that's why this is as good as Midsummer.
Of course. I can only assume I wasn't that aware of A24 when this first came out.
Yeah.
Because it did make me do a bit of a double take. I mean, they still put out a really decent caliber of films, but they are not without their missteps, shall we say.
Well,
I wonder,
evidently.
did they start off with like, were they ramping up to the Hereditaries? They're like reverse Pixar. Like they started off with Tusk, the cast
And it can only get
of
better
horror
from
films.
there.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Maybe it was tactical all along. They were like, let's acquire this piece of shit. And then it can only climb from here on out.
Yeah.
Got to start somewhere, right?
Well, quite. And why not with this? So obviously the main characters, Justin Long and Haley Joel Osment, the podcasters, I'm guessing are like loosely based on Smith and Scott Mosier.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Down to the fact that they seem like arseholes. I'm just gonna be the one to say it.
That's valid. It's a very specific type of podcast, isn't it? I hope we don't do anything like that, you know?
What is that specific type of podcast then? It just seems
just
like
Smodcast,
rambling,
right? It's literally just Smodcast.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a bit of a vanity move on his part.
The whole, I mean, far be it for me to say that Kevin Smith enjoys his own stuff more than almost anybody else, but this film was a massive wank, right?
Oh, 100% masturbatory from start to finish.
Yeah.
I was reading up on it afterwards, and every so often I'd find like, oh, this is a reference to this episode of Smodcast, and I'm like, okay, fine, sure, like I don't care.
It's hard in a career that Kevin Smith has had, where he's made Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and Jay and Silent Bob's Reboot, that this is his most masturbatory piece.
I've yet to see Reboot. I haven't heard great things, so it's not been high on my list.
It's like Kevin Smith now has free reign to do whatever he wants, and that means that no one's saying, "Don't do that. That's shit."
Yeah, like
he just needs someone looking at a script and being like, "Come on, mate. Maybe save the walrus blowjob scene for private times." Like,
but I mean, so they came up with this idea on the podcast. They were just like riffing, I guess. I haven't actually listened to the podcast. My only exposure to it is what you hear in the credits of Tusk.
I didn't get that far.
Can't say I blame you.
The end credits scene where we revisit Gila Point.
Oh God. Who is in fact a real person playing himself, or so the credits would have you believe.
I mean, I was going through some of my notes with my partner Kaz, and one of my notes is, "Do you think Johnny Depp stinks?" And she was like, "Why have you written that? What's that got to do with anything?" And I was like, "It's Johnny Depp." She's like, "No, it's not."
Really?
Yeah.
So weirdly, I was watching a couple of videos on YouTube about Tusk, trying to gauge the general feeling towards this film, and 2 out of 2 said that they'd had no idea it was Johnny Depp while watching, which blows my mind.
Yeah.
I didn't at first, but then like a couple of the mannerisms were like, wait a minute.
But the prosthetics are basically on a par with Adrian Brody in Giallo.
Oh, my favourite. Absolutely, what a dream.
Throwing it all the way back to the old podcasting days.
I love Giallo more than is right to do.
But what are your feelings on Argento's Dracula?
I don't know if I've watched it.
Oh, mate, please do.
Okay.
It's the one with Rutger Hauer in, and potentially the worst CGI I have ever seen.
Worse than the scene where the kid cuts his leg off in Tusk.
Way worse. It's a giant praying mantis.
I mean, is it worse than Birdemic?
It's Dracula.
Yes.
Of course there's a giant praying mantis.
I must have just forgotten that bit in the novel. Of course.
Bram Stoker's giant praying mantis.
I feel so stupid now.
I don't know if it. I mean, maybe it's to do with the kind of period of time in which this film was made, like a couple of years ago. But I genuinely wasn't sure whether I should have been watching that first kind of like Kill Bill kid with it being genuine or with it being just some kid doing cool special effects or silly special effects in his bedroom, whatever. Like, I had to wait until they explained it before I even worked that out.
I checked through the credits at IMDb, and someone is credited as like specifically special effects supervisor for that one bit. And frankly, whatever your name is, because I've already forgotten, you should be well out of a job. Like, you had literally 3 seconds of footage to special effect, and you did a frankly shit job.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, it was so bad, I wasn't sure whether they were laughing at it because of bad special effects, or laughing at it because the kid has genuinely cut his own leg off.
No, they were just laughing at it because they were terrible human beings.
Well, evidently.
I always find, this is going to surprise nobody, like, Kevin Smith's stuff is so on the nose all the time that, like, I was reading through some of the trivia on IMDb and it was like, oh, and this is supposed to reference the Star Wars kid. No fucking shit.
Yeah.
It's very subtle.
Is that really trivia? Like, I don't know. He's just... And the fact that it's called, like, the Kill Bill kid and Michael Parks was in both Kill Bill films. Like, his references are so on the nose.
Yeah.
It's insane. It just surprised me that some of it was legitimately considered trivia and not, glaringly obvious.
I felt like it really dated this movie, and it's a weird because it's fairly recent in terms of, films we've watched before for this podcast. But like, even just having a film that references a meme that was popular a couple of years back just feels dated already. And I think that says a lot about the way memes just kind of disappear off the face of the planet really quickly.
I think it was already dated at that point though, right? Because Star Wars Kid was, 2009 or even earlier, potentially.
Yeah, probably.
And phrases in this, like it poons all of the internauts, was one of the things
missed that.
On the video. Like, is that how Kevin Smith thinks internet people talk?
I mean, so I, up until my maybe even mid-20s, was a huge Kevin Smith fan.
I'm aware.
I know you. I may have mentioned it once or twice. And it wasn't until that point where I used to consider him kind of a master of dialogue. I thought his writing was really sharp. Obviously, like, by his own admission, his directing style, if you can call it a style, has never been up to much. It's just like a point and shoot kind of a thing. But like, his screenplays were his strength, or so I felt. And then I kind of hit my mid-20s and started reappraising them. And so much of it is like a little bit cringe now.
I mean, this is the thing that I've always found. Like, I think it was Clark's too that kind of keyed me into it. I feel Kevin Smith works better when he doesn't have a budget, because he can be quite witty and smart when he wants to be.
But I think you could say that about most directors, though.
True, yeah. But as soon as he's given a budget, he's like, well, let's just have, like, donkey sex in it and, like, all these ridiculous childish things.
He didn't have a budget on Tusk.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Well, it said the budget was about $3 million. But I read somewhere that the bulk of that was used to procure Fleetwood Mac's Tusk.
Yeah.
Which is where he finally blew his load. He just the self-congratulatory pats on the back when he inserted Fleetwood Mac's Tusk in the climax. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that is a Neil drop worthy of Fear Street.
Oh God.
End credits, the Beatles, I Am the Walrus plays.
No, they couldn't afford that.
Absolutely could not afford that.
That would be on the nose.
But yeah, I read that it only grossed about 1.8 million, so not a total success in any sense.
I think there are some real moments of like excellence in like some of the dialogue here. All again, I don't know if it's Michael Parks just like making the dialogue feel good.
I think that might be a big part of it, to be honest. His delivery.
I also love the I don't want to die in Canada line. I think that's hilarious.
Question. Does Kevin Smith love or hate Canada? Because I genuinely can't tell. It's difficult.
Yeah, no, he's got that relationship, doesn't he? I think it's a bit abusive. I think he's in an abusive relationship with Canada where he loves it, but
Which one is abusing to who? Like
he's the abuser.
Right.
I
That
think.
makes sense.
Yeah.
He spent most of his career gaslighting all of Canada.
Yeah.
He clearly loves Degrassi, unironically, because that's been referenced in so much of his work, weirdly.
I think he directed a couple of episodes.
Yeah, he's had involvement with it, yeah.
Did he? Oh, Jesus. I knew he'd cameoed in some of it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's just like, it's the type of humour you'd see in like South Park when it first aired.
Well,
it's like,
yeah.
It's so
literally 20 years ago.
dated, yeah, because it's like all the jokes are the same. It's like, oh, Canada has hockey and mooses and people who say a boot instead of, actually pronouncing it properly. Like, that joke's been done. Why are you carrying it on, right?
It's not even factually accurate.
I know. This is the thing that gets me.
Although they do say a at the end.
That is true.
They do punctuate sentences with a, and they do say sorry quite a lot, in my experience.
Yeah. I only know one Canadian, and I've never heard him say a.
Okay.
Well, that's sad. I'm sad about it. He should say it more.
Maybe you should put that to him. Just say, have you thought about becoming
I think I
a
almost
cliche?
definitely have when we're, I don't know, a bottle or so of whiskey deep and just been like, why are you not more proper?
Why aren't you a xenophobic caricature of a human?
But they call woolly hats toques.
They do.
That's a fun thing that I learned from him.
But no. So it's not all woolly hats. It's a specific type of woolly hat, and that's the one that's sort of rolled up that doesn't come down as far on your head. That's a toque, apparently.
Okay.
I had a Canadian in a pub once explain at length the difference between a beanie and a toque.
Well, that makes sense because I guess I'm a toque wearer by trade.
That does not surprise me one bit.
I have many woolly hats, and I guess they would all be described as toques.
I think back to the film.
If we
There was a
must.
film, wasn't there?
I think it's a valid point. Like, maybe it is Michael Park's delivery, but
Yeah.
it felt like it was written as though it was someone who was worldly travelled and kind of, it had that kind of poetic, very, very kind of literate delivery. And I think, that's a fair point, I think. And I hadn't necessarily appreciated that because it did, it's a perfectly valid kind of praise, bit of a compliment to it.
I think poetic is a really accurate word for it, actually, because like the cadence and the rhythm of it is very poetic in places.
And it wasn't just like, oh, let's just grab a thesaurus and look up the most kind of posh way of phrasing things I can. There was clearly a thought, dedicated to how his phrasing and like his delivery and, the way a sentence is structured. And, that's actually fair, did appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't know if we're giving Kevin Smith too much credit here, though, because I would hazard a guess that his search history does contain synonym for multiple words. Who knows?
Yeah. I have a question about the writing, or about an element of the writing. Does Kevin Smith not know what a selfie is?
I picked up on that.
What's that in reference to?
So when his girlfriend won't finish her oral sex upon him,
oh yeah,
he's like, I'll have to give myself a selfie. Is that?
I mean, I guess he doesn't if he's talking about like poning people on the interwebs or whatever. A lot of it does sound very hello there, fellow kids.
Oh, I want to Photoshop that now.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just noticed that I've got two notes here, and one of them is the walrus suit is fucking dumb, and the other one is is the walrus suit fucking shit? But I guess
You've answered your own question then.
Yeah.
We will definitely talk more about the walrus suit.
Sorry, I just noticed that and was like, oh, that's weird.
So yeah, obviously when Wallace, that somebody in a video pointed out, sounds like walrus. Thanks for that, Captain Obvious. So when he
trivia,
yeah, in inverted quotes.
Yep.
So when Wallace is in Canada and his interview falls through for quite tragic reasons, he ends up in a bar and he reads this handwritten note.
Just to interrupt, sorry.
Go on.
Did you guys pick up on the fact that of the crowd of people that were at this funeral, they just sounded like there's one person crying, one person who was actually sad.
Yeah.
And it sounded far too loud. Like, I don't know what it was up with the sound mix or something, but it felt like they just whacked someone, like a sound of someone crying over the top. It was jarring, to say the least.
The $3 million budget did not extend to good Foley work.
Exactly.
Sadly. Or maybe everybody else saw it coming and one person was blindsided and they were therefore more upset than everyone else. Who knows?
Maybe.
But yeah, so the letter that he sees in the bathroom. Firstly, what special kind of idiot sees a handwritten note in a public restroom and goes, yeah, that sounds like a job for me?
So my first note is, would you do it?
No.
What if it was like, we'll meet up in a public place so I can tell you some stories? Or if it was the original. So you mentioned that you hadn't listened to the podcast. I listened to it again for this. I heard it when it was contemporaneously, because I also was a huge mark for Kevin Smith's bullshit for a really long time.
Until we saw the light.
Way longer than was necessary. Until I got bored of Ralph Garman doing the same impressions every week on Hollywood Babylon, which also make an appearance in this as their fucking ringtones.
Oh, I did. Yes, I read that in the trivia.
Wait, what was my point? I've got so angry about Kevin Smith and
the inspiration for this.
Yeah, so the inspiration was they talk about it in depth, and they weren't aware that it was a joke or satire when they were going through it. They were taking it very. I mean, they weren't taking it very seriously, but they were believing that it was a real advert. And it was for anyone that doesn't know or can't read your own trivia, it was an advert on Gumtree in Brighton offering a free room and board to anyone that would live there, but would dress up as a walrus for 2 hours a day. And
I might do that.
Well, the walrus is called Gregory.
Oh, right.
Gregory Gumtree, the hockey player. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I mean, Brighton is very expensive.
It is, but it's also lovely. So
yeah, exactly.
I don't
know.
If anywhere in the UK you're gonna not be judged for wearing a walrus suit, Brighton's probably the place.
Well, quite, yeah. Oh, would you have to wear it out of the house as well? Or would it just be...
the advert didn't say. It just said for 2 hours a day you have to wear the walrus suit.
If I could do that behind closed doors, then I might consider it. Most of my income goes on rent, so to be freed of that would be nice.
Yeah.
Fair.
And like most evenings, I just sit on my arse watching films. I might as well be in a walrus suit while doing that, right?
Yeah, no, fair dues. I think
for free rent.
Also, the original advert said like you have to dress up as a walrus suit to be like my friend Gregory the walrus, who I left on an island.
Oh, but right.
Michael Park's advert didn't say I'm going to sew you into a walrus suit and come in your walrus mouth. Like.
You just had to say it.
He didn't say that in the advert, because I think if he'd have said that, maybe Wallace and the other people that had pulled off the little slips and whose faces adorned the suit probably wouldn't have bothered. So,
but the question remains: would you, based on the information that was in front of you?
I mean, no, obviously not, because I'm terrified of anything. But if I was Wallace, then probably. If I was a very specific douchebag who had a podcast as opposed to the douchebag that I am, then maybe I would. I don't know.
I think based on this interaction alone, you should bring back the Dangerous Jamie nickname, except it should be ironic now, like Little John.
Yeah. Dangerous Jamie would definitely end up in a walrus suit
100%.
with Michael Park's penis in his mouth.
100%. I don't doubt that at all. What about you, Phil?
No.
Any part of you tempted?
No.
So one of my notes actually was that this would never have happened with a female protagonist, because any mention of going to a stranger's house alone, you would just nope the fuck out of there so fast. It would this film would never have gotten off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be it would have been shorter, put it that way.
I'm just going to quickly Google what female walruses look like. My assumption is that they look identical to male walruses, but with tits.
With boobs.
Yeah.
You were going to say that. Yeah, that's what I'm picturing now. It's not pleasant.
And now you are all picturing it too. You are welcome.
I mean, I've seen Smurfs. I watch cartoons. Female things are just male things, but with boobs.
Can I quote you on that? I think that should be your legacy.
You can't quote me on that, and you also have to edit out of the podcast.
Did we not tell you we don't edit? This is all going out to the public. I did at one point echo the point that we've already made several times, and one of my notes is just Michael Parks is far too good for this film.
Yeah.
And it surprised me to learn that Kevin Smith had written the role for him, and that Michael Parks was all for it.
Well, they had a good time on Red State, right?
I was just trying to figure out in my headcanon, was Red State a few years before this then? Was that 2011-ish?
Yeah, thereabouts, I'd say.
Okay, so he was the best part of Red State as well.
I don't remember anything else about Red State. I don't remember who was in it.
Is it Bruce Willis? Am I making that up? I've never seen it.
It's definitely not Bruce Willis.
What am I thinking of then?
Cop Out.
Must be.
Oh, yeah. Oh God, yeah, that weird. Yeah, right, that's a Kevin Smith film I haven't seen because it looked
I knew there was some kind of Bruce Willis, Kevin Smith crossover, and I just couldn't quite remember which one.
Well, there's a few.
Oh,
because, really? Kevin Smith was also in Die Hard 4.0, as was Justin Long.
Yeah.
He was a computer hacker because he was a fat guy in a movie, and that's how you be in a Hollywood movie, I think.
Them's the rules. I did. One line of dialogue that did really make me laugh at one point was when they were talking about podcasting in general and being met with the phrase what's a podcaster? And I was just like, something I can relate to. The sheer number of times I've been asked that question. And they had a better answer for it than I do.
Well, now you can remember it.
Yeah.
One thing I don't know if you guys feel the same, but this felt like two separate movies. Sometimes.
Only two.
Definitely.
Well, yeah, but
at least two.
From a tonal perspective, up until towards the end, perhaps it felt like everything with Michael Parks and Justin Long was shot like an actual genuine horror movie. Mm-hmm. And then smash cut to wacky hijinks with terrible Canadian accents, whatever, and it felt really jarring. And I would have just preferred it to be a bit more tonally cohesive.
Yeah. I don't think Kevin Smith's your man in that case. If I'm being honest.
You can do comedy and horror in the same kind of breath, but whether you dial up the comedy or dial up the horror, either way. Yeah, but doing them as two separate genres in two separate scenes is just jarring. It feels like you're watching two movies.
So I think the first time I watched this, I wasn't 100% sure what I was getting myself into.
A walrus suit.
No, I didn't answer the answer.
No, she still pays rent, Jamie. Why don't you pay attention?
I missed my shot. Yeah, so I had no idea that there was supposed to be any sort of comedic element. I mean, I guess I probably should have guessed, but I didn't find that in Red State. I think that was probably the first film I watched where I was like, oh, Kevin Smith can kind of do serious. Because I think Red State's a genuinely good film. And so I had no idea there was going to be any sort of, are we going to call it dark comedy, I guess?
That's what they refer to on Wikipedia. Black comedy.
And I probably for that reason enjoyed it more. I'm using enjoyed in the loosest way possible. Enjoyed it more the second time around, knowing exactly what I was in for.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you guys feel like the humor was kind of overt?
I mean, I think it's really silly, and
oh yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of humor in the Michael Parks Justin Long interplay as well, but it's just very different to the humor in those other bits with Guy Lapointe and Haley Joel Osment and the Justin Long's weird Mexican accent when he's and all of that stuff is just weird and just smashes you well out of the film. Like you don't. And I mean, we'll talk about the ending, but that's
we will definitely get to the ending.
That's also completely insane to me.
And also just medically preposterous. But again, I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. But yeah, I guess it probably is around the midway point that things really start to shift. And then there are a couple of like flashbacks, I guess. And there's one, I just get the impression Kevin Smith thought he was being really clever, where there's like a segue between him, Justin Long's character, receiving oral sex to waking up immediately after being drugged. And the whole thing just made me feel unclean.
Yeah, I was waiting for kind of like a realization to dawn on him. And I'm glad it didn't, don't get me wrong, but I didn't want to be taken down that path.
No. God, no.
I think a better director,
a competent director,
would really have sold that in a way that I would have really enjoyed. I'm sure I've seen some cuts like that before where they've been going from, I don't know, a blowjob or something nice or pleasant to something unpleasant and horror-y and gooey, and I think that can really work. But I think it didn't here. It was bad.
No. But much like most of his work visually, you just get the idea that he's just cribbing heavily from other directors that he admires. There's almost no originality in the way any of his films look. And it just comes off as like a second-rate version of someone superior.
I think that's the thing, because you can do kind of self-referential and kind of like self-aware really well with a director who at least plays with what they're doing and maybe subverts expectations or something like that, brings something new to what they're doing. But if all you're doing is aping and that's it, like the audience will naturally get a feeling that they're watching an inferior version of another director, you know?
Yeah. I think in terms of the direction, one of my notes here is fucking move a camera just one time.
I mean, that's his thing though, isn't it? Just static point and shoot.
How can you call yourself a director if you're not directing? Surely it's really boring for the cinematographer. Surely it's boring. But I mean, to watch,
I think that almost makes sense if you are doing like a Clerks or something, when it's very kind of simple as a film because it's just characters
and also
talking
you're
to
like,
each other.
You're in a real life location and you're pushed for space and can't necessarily maneuver. That absolutely
Whereas if you're
makes
doing
sense.
an actual film with a budget and like named actors and all sorts, then you need to up your game and actually bring something new to the table or like something interesting to the table. You know?
You would hope.
I totally agree. I think even in like some of his other more budgety films, like say Mallrats or Chasing Amy and some of those other ones that I've liked, they don't feel really static. Whereas this is just sort of begging for like a little bit of like dynamic movement because it's a horror film and you can't just sit and look at something. It's got to be you've got to feed that horror. The reason that that Jaws works is because you don't see the shitty shark. The reason that Tusk doesn't work is because you spend 45 minutes with that fucking shitty suit.
Oh God! So in the trivia, let's talk about the suit, shall we? Let's just dive in. I did read somewhere that Kevin Smith had wanted Greg Nicotero to do the effects work, and I read that Greg Nicotero had kind of cited scheduling conflicts with The Walking Dead, which is a really realistic sounding excuse. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Fair play to Greg Nicotero. He can lie well.
I mean, even having a better kind of special effects artist, I'm not sure that would have helped much, because it would have been more interesting to look at. But again, like Jamie kind of said, it's how you kind of maybe tease it or kind of actually show it.
Yeah.
There's no build up to what's happening really. There's kind of a small montage, and then it's just like,
and then
it's
it's
the walrus suit now.
Yeah. Right. So medically speaking, obviously this goes into almost like human centipede territory levels of, well, this wouldn't work.
Yeah. One of my notes is I read in a review ages ago. I can't remember who it was, but it always stuck with me that Tusk is human centipede if it was written by a guy who named his daughter Harley Quinn.
Jesus, yeah.
And I'm sure we'll go on to her in a bit.
And puts his daughter and other half in all of his films.
In the same scene, no less. I think,
Jesus.
if I'm remembering correctly.
His wife was the
She was
woman
a
that brought
waitress.
Gil upon his weird burger that he flattened.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're right. I think it's someone from Smodcast who was the woman that.
That Justin Long lent on.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was.
And it's Johnny Depp's daughter that was the other clerk.
Yeah.
It was her first film as well. Imagine this being your first credit.
Well, her second film was Yoga Hosers, which I don't know if you watched, but I turned off, and I do not turn off films.
Oh wow! No, I haven't seen it. I saw the trailer and just went, "Nope, that's not for me."
Yep. That's been the entirety of my exposure to that film was the trailer, and that was enough.
Wasn't that supposed to be the second in the weird sort of Canadian trilogy? And then Moose
the
Jaws,
Great White North or something like that.
Yeah, and then Moose Jaws is supposed to be the third, but that, funnily enough, hasn't materialised yet.
I think it might be coming soon.
Oh no!
But he's starting Clerks 3 this year, isn't he? So that's going to be
the sequel that everyone asked for, except no one asked for it.
I mean, we're all going to watch it, and by I mean me.
It's almost like he's a bit of a one-trick pony.
Yeah. One-trick walrus.
Oh no.
I don't even know if Justin Long in this has one trick. He's a very, very bad walrus.
Can I ask you if you think that it's Justin Long in the suit, or whether the prosthetics looked a bit like Justin Long? Not by accident, of course. They probably did it on purpose. But whether it was just a little stunt walrus.
Or you mean the whole, even in the wide shots? Because up close, it's clearly him, because it's the same eyes. I can't believe we're having this. Sorry, just the absurdity of this conversation. I want to think it was him, but I doubt it.
After the movie was finished, did they take him out of the walrus suit?
No, he's still in it.
He's still there.
Yeah.
He's still in that little igloo in Canada.
He's still in the saddest looking animal sanctuary in Canada. I would like to believe that it was him the whole time.
I reckon so, yeah. No, I never thought otherwise, to be fair, so...
That's movie magic, surely.
I don't know, maybe the rest of the time it was Kevin Smith, because nobody else would do it.
I mean, he does love to put himself in his movies, so...
Well, quite. Maybe this was his Hitchcock moment. Oh, dear. So, in terms of... I don't even know where to start. Well, how, why, what, where, when, basically.
Canada, 2014. And because they talked about it on a podcast
No,
is the answer to all of this.
I dare you to give me a more satisfying why. There isn't one.
Because enough people on Twitter voted #walrus yes.
Yeah.
And this is why I deleted my Twitter and I haven't been on there in years, because it's a cesspit.
I think the last tweet you sent before you cancelled it was walrus yes.
I don't know if
it was related to this or not, but
she hasn't been able to live with the guilt.
It was my vote that tipped it over, of course. But in terms of so he isn't turned into a walrus. He's in a walrus suit made of other people, as we come to learn.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But Michael Parks does perform surgery on him. Like, he amputates both of his legs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to make the tusks.
Which, Jesus Christ, horrifying. And then, like, sews his arms to his sides.
Yeah.
What kind of time frame does this film happen in?
Well,
because
that's a good question, because Guy Lapointe talks about finding Gregory Gumtree.
Yeah.
And his arms are fused to his side, which I imagine would take quite a long time.
You would think, right? This is why I ask.
So one of the things that I wanted from the end of this movie,
other than it just being over,
is and me and my partner talked about this, is the concept of I don't know, them taking him to a hospital and being like, let's try and save you, rather than just, I guess you're a fucking walrus now, mate. Here's a Slurpee and fuck off to the sanctuary. Like,
I think so. I've read a couple of articles about it. I think that was quite a common annoyance about the film, is that they didn't explore that. They were just like, oh no, he's
too far gone.
As they say, he's gone full. Yeah, never go full walrus. I hated that they used that phrase. But like, well, fair enough.
It's funny in just funny words though.
In the context of this film, knowing that it's not supposed to be taken seriously, that it exists because of a conversation on a podcast, even allowing for all of that, just no, it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense, and I'm not here for it. But yeah, no, I would have vastly preferred that ending.
Mm.
Even if he still ends up in the sanctuary, like, oh, we couldn't save him, or like maybe the fake out is that we think he dies on the operating table, and then
and the rest of it was imagined.
And no, we think that he dies on the operating table, rather than we think he's shot by Guy Lapointe.
Right.
And then you still have the sad scene at the animal sanctuary where you learn that he still has a soul or something. We're supposed to care, despite the fact that he's an absolute fucking douchebag and has been for an hour and
he didn't
38 minutes of our lives.
He didn't really show any evidence of having a soul up until that point.
Yeah.
It took being turned into a walrus for him to learn how to cry.
Like, one of my notes here is a testament to how much of an absolute douchebag that he is, that watching his partner and his podcast pal banging, he still comes off as the dick.
Yeah. I did think that though, like, there is nobody really to root for in this film, because you have that, what I'm guessing was supposed to be some sort of reveal where she's talking to somebody that she's clearly having an affair with, and about feeling guilty because he's off cheating on her, but she feels guilty because everyone's trash. Everyone is trash in this film. Yeah. And then you have the scene where, it's Haley Joel Osment's character, like, appears and goes into the back. Oh, were we not supposed to guess that?
Mm.
It felt like it was supposed to be this big reveal. But
when they
it was a bad reveal.
Scene saying how they're spending time together, kind of behind Justin Long's back, and really? Couldn't together.
Yeah. I hate this. I do think the best part... I think one of the best parts...
That's your catchphrase now.
Thanks, I hate it.
I hate this.
I think one of the best parts of this film is Justin Long's knitwear. I quite liked his knitwear. I'm just trying to find positives
says a lot,
now.
really, doesn't it? Did you guys notice that Howard Howe shares an origin story with Batman, broadly speaking?
I didn't. I didn't clock that.
Yeah, parents are murdered in an alley, and he grows up in an orphanage. I mean,
I didn't notice that.
They're very different paths after that, but
well, so Bruce Wayne ended up in a cave full of bats and became the Batman. Howard Howe ended up on an island with a walrus, and then in the end, he puts on the walrus suit.
I mean,
fights for his life.
Fair.
I think whoever said that this film could only have come from the mind of somebody who'd like smashed Human Centipede together with his love of comic books was perhaps onto something there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you've got the alliterative name. Obviously, Bruce Wayne doesn't have the alliterative name, but a lot of other comics characters do. So yeah, maybe that's a
yeah.
Just
maybe that's a thing.
Stanley trademark, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Right, so we've delayed it long enough. I would like to talk a little bit more. Well, I wouldn't like to. I feel like we should talk a little bit more about Johnny Depp's character.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we were going to talk about the scene where Howard Howe forces a walruses to fillet him underwater. I thought I detected that somber tone in your voice there.
Well, I'm going to delay that for as long as possible. So before that, does Kevin Smith have dirt on Johnny Depp?
His daughter and Kevin Smith's daughter and Johnny Depp's daughter are best friends
In real life?
in real life. I think they went to high school together, and they're best friends, and they would hang out all the time. And so their parents hung out, which I guess is fairly normal. But one of them is Kevin Smith and one of them is Johnny Depp. So this is what happens then. Rather than like having to make awkward small talk at barbecues, they instead have to put on stupid French Canadian accents and wear a Robert De Niro nose.
I don't think they should be friends anymore. Maybe they're not now. Maybe this was the thing that killed it.
Well, they were friendly enough to make yoga hosers, weren't they?
Was Johnny Depp in yoga hoses as well?
Oh, I don't know about that, but I mean they're
Oh right, the kids.
the Weans.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. So quickly going back to the scene that you brought up earlier, Jamie, which is
Which one?
Michael Parks and Johnny Depp in a scenery chewing competition. Apparently I don't even know how to say it diplomatically. The voice that Michael Parks chose to do was his own decision, which has made him go down in my estimation somewhat.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp doing a really terrible French Canadian accent, and Michael Parks doing what I can only describe as he sounds like he's got brain damage in what might be the most xenophobic and ableist scene ever committed to film.
Ooh, I don't know.
Are you trying to think of something worse now?
Yeah.
It was a bold claim on my part, in fairness.
They can't
No, I
really
can't
do
think of
many,
No.
though. Certainly none directed by a director as well known as Kevin Smith, anyway.
I don't understand how that came to fruition. There must have been so many people involved at this point, and nobody went, guys.
The worst thing about that scene is it doesn't fucking matter.
No.
Like it doesn't do anything. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't advance the plot in any way.
No, it's just whittering on about spiders again.
Yeah.
Honestly, Michael Parks carried this film, but he gets points deducted for that scene.
Yeah. He dropped it there.
He did. It's a bit of a clanger.
So no one answered my question before. Does Johnny
which
Depp
one?
stink?
Do you think what? Literally?
Yeah, I think. Do you think he smells bad? Like not necessarily just in this film, but I think
As a
he looks like a
human.
man. He looks like a man with a smell,
Yeah.
and like probably not sauvage, although I don't know what that smells like. Presumably vinegar and flowers, but maybe that's what Johnny Depp smells like: vinegar and flowers, and clove cigarettes, and I don't know, the wall of a goth bar, and
Yeah. That's honestly, you've sort of nailed it. So I think the answer is yes.
cool.
He doesn't in real life he doesn't look like a man that bathes that often. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna say it. He's just
He looks
run out
more
of
and more
fucks to
like-
give.
He looks more and more like the fake Johnny Depp in the Tim and Eric movie every time I look at him as well.
Yeah. Basically, he looks like he's in character in Pirates of the Caribbean at all times
Yeah.
now. So yes, is my answer.
I think I hate him.
Do you?
Yeah.
On what
Yeah, I do.
grounds? Because of
On the
this film.
I mean, on a lot of grounds, but I mean,
This
not
film
mostly.
and his supposed mask.
I mean, I think it would be unfair of me to hate a man just because he's stunk, given how hot and sweaty I am right now.
And
But,
also because we can't confirm it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's confirmed, but I don't know. Do you know how like Brendan Fraser was a beautiful young man who has been slowly ravaged by the sands of time and looks now like a man who is 52 because he's a man who's 52.
Yeah.
Whereas Johnny Depp was a beautiful young man and now looks like, I don't know, a brick landed on his head, and he's still a bit handsome, but also he just I don't know, he stinks. I hate him.
I wondered where you were going there, but yes, I agree.
He just sort of looks like you left Johnny Depp out in the sun for too long.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a bad
He's just been
work of Johnny Depp.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's been left out to the elements for a couple of weeks.
I feel I need to leap to Brendan Fraser's defense though, because
Well, no, I mean,
I love Brendan
Well, yeah,
Fraser.
I
Don't
know.
get
to
me
be
wrong.
fair, like that wasn't derogatory. You were kind of in
he
Brendan
did have
Fraser's
his,
defense.
I think he had an injury, didn't he? Didn't he hurt himself doing a stunt or something similar?
Possibly. I know that he's had some severe mental health issues.
Yeah, it's
And-
really tragic. Like that's
Hard,
yeah.
same. Relatable.
Yeah, who can say that they've escaped those ones? But he's great. I love Brendan Fraser, and I'm glad that he's back. But he doesn't look like Brendan Fraser looked in 1996.
yeah.
that's all.
Oh, no,
that's all I'm
it's
saying.
It's a very valid observation.
Yeah, he went the Val Kilmer route of aging,
Yeah,
where he just sort of got wider over the years with less hair, which is arguably what happens to many of us.
hello. I've gone the full shave now because I was
Have you?
too George Costanza about this little ball patch that was forming in the back of my head. That I just had to just whip it all off.
I don't remember the last time I haven't seen you wearing a hat, so I don't think I'd noticed.
Well, I think last time I saw you for realsies, I was like, I'm losing my hair, Sarah. Have a look at this. And I whipped my hat off and you were like, there's hair there. I was...
Question, had I been drinking?
I think we were at the trackside and it was
Oh, yeah.
potentially our first beer. Not ever, obviously.
Definitely not ever. Yeah, that makes sense.
Why
So-
didn't Justin Long call the police himself?
Yeah,
To get
he
to
had
the other side.
You've heard that
that
one
well-known
before.
joke. Well, yeah, he did have the opportunity to make a phone
Like,
call.
he made 2
Is it
phone
not
calls.
911 in Canada? Did you
mean-
not know the number?
It's 2014. Surely smartphones were a thing then, right? I mean, am I misremembering 7 years ago?
No, I'm pretty sure there was like a sort of safeguard thing where you just like mash some buttons and it calls the emergency services, right?
Yeah,
Is that a
definitely.
thing?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah. If it means I can criticize this film more, yes. Let's say yes.
But yeah, that was an odd
Why-
choice.
Why call the police when you can call Haley Joel Osment?
Exactly.
Would that be your first choice?
Absolutely my first choice.
If you're assuming you had his number.
Yeah, I would. If I get arrested or if I'm trapped by a man who's going to turn me into a walrus or any semi-aquatic creature, I will probably call Haley Joel Osment.
Okay, what about a land mammal?
No, then that's only going to be Guy Fieri.
Right, for what reason?
First person I can think of.
Because
was
Guy
quite
Fieri
clinky,
is
to be fair.
also a land mammal. So we've talked a little bit, a segue, we've talked a little bit about just the multitude of references to other things that Kevin Smith shoehorns in, predominantly his own work. But again, in terms of like comic book connections, did I remember hearing the place they end up is Bifrost?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a real place, though. I looked it up.
Is it? Because I only know that from Thor.
Yeah.
And to be fair, actual mythology, not just comic books.
Well, yeah, well, obviously Thor is based on Norse mythology.
I thought the mythology was based on the comic.
Oh, no, I think you're mistaken.
But yeah, no, Bifrost is real. I looked it up because I've had the same thought. And it's really in Winnipeg or Canada and Winnipeg. Or I don't know very much about Canada. Winnipeg
is a place in Canada.
Yeah.
Is that where this was set?
Yes.
Okay. Why is my brain saying Manitoba?
I had Manitoba.
Isn't that in Winnipeg?
First, yeah.
Oh, right.
Maybe I'm lying, or
I thought it was Manitoba County.
As it's also known as wrong.
I don't know.
I'm going to quickly look it up.
Like, I've heard all these, like, Canadian provinces and cities, and I'm aware of them individually, but I have zero idea geographically where any of them are in relation to each other.
I have a vague idea, only because I used
Canada, I think.
get a plane.
Aside from that.
Yeah, because I used to get a plane to Canada several times a year.
Of course.
And on the little the screens in front of you, you can see, like, the journey. So that's my only knowledge of where things
Manitoba.
are.
Not
Is
Winnipeg.
it? Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just remembered the other place in Canada that's it. I only know
There's
like
only
3.
two.
I only know like 3 Canada things, and one of them was TUSK. So,
and the other 2 are Winnipeg and Manitoba. That's fair.
And the song, the Canadian Mayor song, the Canada song from Mystery Science Theater 3000, I think is about the only other thing I know about Canada.
And after watching this movie, moose and hockey, apparently.
You didn't know that already? Oh, this is just... it's awful. It's a terrible... This is what I mean. This is why I asked, like, does Kevin Smith hate Canada? Because he does not represent it very well.
Mm.
But yeah, he does. So the scene at the beginning with the comedy airport guy.
Oh yeah, I guess
that's all about how great Canada is.
Mm.
I think that's there for balance. So he's like, look, I said it was nice, so now I can
now I can
draw
shit
dicks all
on
over
it.
it. Yeah.
Apparently, supposedly, it's one of those situations where he's trying to poke fun more at Americans, like, view of Canada rather than Canada itself, and that's why there's always the mispronunciation. But I feel that's doing that sort of next level analysis and like critical analysis of like culture is you need to do that well, and you need to do that obviously.
But this is it. He's not good enough.
And this isn't his movie to do something like that.
His films aren't nuanced enough for that to come across.
They just come across as just like easy, cheap stereotypes because it's a comedy movie, and that's the easy thing to do.
Well, that's the great thing about shit satire is that you can be satirical, and the cool people that like you are like, hey, he's being satirical, and then the people that think Canada is all meese and hockey are like, hey, I like this Kevin Smith guy. He aligns with my vaguely Canadianly bigoted ideals.
I guess so. What is the plural of moose?
Meese.
It's not meese. I can confidently guess that it is not meese.
I mean, I said it with such confidence. So.
That is usually the way to convince me of things. Just say things confidently, and I'll usually buy it. So,
another thing, sorry.
Go on.
Another thing that I'd written down here is, so fairly early on in the movie, Howard Howe quotes a bit of the Rime of the Ancient Mariner,
okay.
and Justin Long is like, hey, that's the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, which is that thing that films do sometimes where it's like, hey, this is the plot of the film. And all I can say is I think Kevin Smith's understanding of the Rime of the Ancient Mariner is really, really limited to the text rather than any of the subtext of the Rime of the Ancient Mariner. And I think that sums Kevin Smith up.
Absolutely.
Massively. Yeah.
Maybe much like Garth Marenghi, he thinks that subtext is for cowards.
I love that line. That's one of my favourite lines from that show.
So I want to go back. I'm sorry. I'm going to drag this kicking and screaming.
We're so close
back.
to finishing this off, Sarah.
I have more things to say about the walrus zoo. I'm not done. So obviously, it's not a fucking walrus zoo. It's made of people.
Mm-hmm.
It would never work. Obviously, we're led to believe that Michael Park's character has gone insane.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yes. I'm sorry to be the bearer of that news, if you hadn't figured that out.
I thought he was the good guy.
I mean, he kind of was in a way.
He got rid of Justin Long.
He did. He was the unsung hero of the piece. He finally shut Wallace up.
She stopped saying Justin Long and actually say Wallace, but too far into it now.
But yeah, so the suit would never work. I mean, it's literally made of people. It would decay so fast, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I mean,
even
particularly if it's submerged half the time.
Well, yeah.
Can you make people leather?
Yeah, you can.
Because cow's skin would also degrade, I assume, if not treated properly.
Yeah, in theory, you can treat it so that it becomes more long-lasting. But, there were literally...
Just in long-lasting.
Yes. But there were, literally noses and ears on it. Actual holes.
Yeah.
Which I guess Kevin Smith thought looked cool. But to pedants like me, is really irritating.
You're right, Sarah. This film is so unrealistic.
Right? Preposterous. It could never work.
I have a question about the suit and the turning Justin Long Wallace into a walrus.
Okay.
Did he install a baculum or whatever it was called?
I mean, probably, yeah.
How?
I don't have the how.
How would it function, Sarah? As
it wouldn't.
The marine biologist of the podcast, how would it?
It wouldn't function. Much like none of it fucking functions. He's just trapped in there, presumably defecating, with nowhere for that to go. I've given this far too much thought. I realise that. But it just...
I thought too much about the dick and not about the ass. I think that's...
Well, quite. This is another reason it would never work. There'd have to be a hole. Water would get in there. It would never work. And his sutures would burst immediately. His arms would come away from his sides and he would die because he would hemorrhage. He wouldn't be sat in the sad zoo waiting for his friends to come and bring him fish.
I have a question there too. How does he drink all of those slushies that are scattered around him?
Well, effectively, he's still got a human mouth. That's one of the things. I
thought he didn't have lips, right?
But this is one of the things that I hated most about the suit is that he's still got his human teeth. In the same way that everyone complained about the first rendering of Sonic. Human teeth on an animal is horrifying.
We got angry about the wrong movie there.
We did.
I think people did. Yeah.
To be fair,
Sonic was great.
I enjoyed Sonic.
I haven't seen it yet. But that was after they fixed the teeth, right?
Yeah.
I think it would have been fine.
I respectfully disagree. But yeah, I don't want to be the one to pick apart the...
I think it's a bit late for that one now, Sarah.
I feel like the conversation on the podcast is literally as far as they got, and they just went with it without giving any of it much more thought.
Well, so on the podcast, they talk about the whole... They basically plot out the whole movie, and it's quite different.
Okay.
What they talk about on the podcast. It's set in Britain. Scott Mosier does the voice of several different characters. One of them's called Wallace, which they come up with on the fly. So probably the funniest joke, maybe. Wallace sounds like walrus. And they came up with that in the second that they recorded or started recording it. I don't know how much prep they do. I'm assuming not very much. And yeah, the plot of the film that they discuss on the podcast is about a guy called Wallace who lives with his football hooligan housemates,
Of course,
so
because he's in England, yeah.
Yes. So and he doesn't want to live there anymore. So and he sees this advert and he's like, I've just lost my job. That's another thing that has happened. So he's like, well, I'll go move in with this guy and I'll go be Gregory for 2 hours a day.
Yeah, maybe my new job can be 2 hours of walrusing every day.
Part-time walrus.
Yeah.
I mean, when you put it like that, it sounds pretty good, doesn't it? It's a cushy deal.
Pretty sweet deal, yeah. I can definitely think of worse.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to labour the blowjob scene, but obviously,
you will.
if that's part of the job, then I don't want to do that. But
I feel like you really want to talk about that scene.
Why? Why is it there? Like, his whole thing is like, human beings are bad and I want to be with a walrus because walruses are good. And then he's like, but I need to show you that human beings are bad, but that human being is me. And I'm the good human being. I was friends with the walrus, but then I ate the walrus.
So he was bad.
But it doesn't... It's just another one of those, it'd be like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if he made the walrus suck him off?
Yeah, I'm sure that's literally as far as they got with it. They were just like, oh, what if? Yes, include it. Sure.
Also, do walrus, do they need to... do they breathe underwater, or are they fully air-breathing mammals? I have no idea.
I don't have an answer for you.
But you're meant to be a marine biologist.
I think that's a fictional title that I was awarded about 10 minutes ago. I have never claimed any such thing.
If you hear Sarah tell you that she is not a marine biologist, then she is lying. I've seen her down the Sea Life Centre. I hope you're a marine biologist.
Full-time marine biologist, part-time walrus with free rent.
I mean, to mention it again, the blowjob scene does suggest the presence of lips. So at least we've answered how he drinks all the Slurpees in the end.
That was it. The inclusion was just to answer.
That's why, yeah.
Chekhov's lips.
That might... we've known each other a long time, and that might be the worst thing you've ever said. I'm calling it now. But yeah, it was because obviously in that last scene, everybody would have the question, how's he drinking the Slurpee?
Yeah.
And you go, yeah.
Well...
Already dealt with that.
Master of foreshadowing is Kevin Smith.
Yeah, that's what he's known for.
I think we need to bring this to an end. Unless anyone else has anything they'd like to say.
I'd be ecstatic to stop talking about this film. As much fun as this has been more fun than the film, much like the Necromantic show.
Very much so.
Well, one more thing about the blowjob scene. No.
Cue another 10 minutes just on this.
Is it worth asking you guys what you thought? Or
sure.
Do we know enough?
I can
10 out of 10. Loved it. Better than Citizen Kane.
Would have benefited from more man on walrus action.
Do you know what? Citizen Kane would massively be improved by, I don't know. Yeah, it would. I'm not going to mention the blowjob scene again, but
please don't.
Just picture it.
No. You can't make me.
Walrus.
Right.
I mean, in a lot of ways, the walrus was his rosebud.
Yes,
Name
the two
one.
are the two are basically interchangeable. You're correct.
I think because they're both two syllables.
I would be happy to give my final thoughts on this film. Weirdly, I enjoyed it more the second time around, like I said earlier, but I think that's just because I knew what to expect, and my expectations were as fucking low as they get. It could not disappoint me. I think it is one of the most tonally inconsistent films I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Release the Snyder Cut.
No, can you imagine 4 hours of Tusk? Fuck no. No one wants that. There'll be a robot walrus in the background somewhere. No. Oh, don't give Kevin Smith ideas. I'm sure he listens to this podcast, clearly.
If he does listen, he's probably turned off by now because he's probably sad.
Do you know what? I think Kevin Smith is probably the sort of person who does like Google himself.
Yeah, Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
Yes, but less like just humorless, and probably stoned more often. Yeah, I kind of respect the lack of fucks that they gave. They just went, here's a stupid story that we cooked up on a podcast. Should we make it? The fans said yes. So they fucking made it. I kind of respect that on a very base level. However, the film is a piece of shit and I will never watch this again. Ever. But because it's so tonally inconsistent and so it doesn't know what it wants to be, I have no idea who the fuck I would recommend this to.
No.
I could like
your marine biologist colleagues, maybe they might get a kick out of it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, walrus philiacs, whatever.
Yeah. Your new landlord.
Yeah. My new landlord. Perfect. You've answered that question. So yeah, there is one person I would recommend it to. I think if I disliked people, I might recommend it to them.
I just think it's just loads of fun. It's objectively shit, but every scene has a fun thing happening, apart from the things that aren't fun, but they're sort of horribly enjoyable in a horrible enjoyable way. So like it is massively inconsistent.
Right, one thing I will give it credit for is that I'm not likely to forget it anytime soon. Yeah, I will give you that. But I really do struggle to say many positive things about this film. What about you, Phil? Anyway, you've not given us your thoughts.
I mean, much the same as you, Sarah. Like, I knew what film it was. I knew it was what it was about when I went in.
Had I warned you adequately?
Probably. Well, adequately. You certainly warned me. Whether that was adequately or not, I'm not sure. I would have preferred it if it was just more tonally consistent. Like, if it was going for, like,
if it was like the first half, like, just get rid of Johnny Depp entirely.
Yeah.
Well, it's not
like off the world.
There's a film in which there's like silly Canadian stereotypes and Johnny Depp and kind of Michael Parks doing a horrendous accent, and there's a film where Justin Long is being turned into a walrus. He's being turned into a walrus.
It does sound like walrus.
He's already a Wallace.
I want to see the movie where like a psycho walrus turns his friend Walrus into a Wallace. Don't give him ideas. We do not need Tusk 2. My idea for Tusk 2 was Tusk 2, that's a given, but...
God damn, that's throwing it back to the old days of the Gorepress Scorecast as well.
That's a classic.
I don't even remember what That's a Gibbon was in response to, but it was very funny at the time.
I think I tried to say that's a given, and
but we were talking about something to do with like monkeys, so it made sense.
Oh, well then that is a given.
Yeah, and I had they just bringing it back. Had they stuck with one kind of one tone, it would have been a far more enjoyable movie, but it just didn't seem to know what it was, and they were just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what stuck, and then
and none of it stuck.
Keeping the things that didn't stick as well, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty much it, really. You know, that's kind of my thoughts.
My final thought is going to be that this film took 15 days to film. So my idea that I would like to posit is Why didn't they take longer?
15
it
days
may
to
have
film.
benefited.
And 14 of those days was trying to secure the rights to Tusk by Fleetwood Mac.
Everything else is in real time, first take. That would explain a lot. They just left Michael Parks talking in a room for a solid day and then chopped it down.
Like, because Justin Long's normally an adequate actor, right?
Yeah, he's not bad.
And like, he can be funny and he can be good. What was he good in? Is he in Ed? Was that what he was in?
Ed. Oh, I
The
don't
Channel
know.
4 show? I think he was in that.
Maybe.
But I always rated him, and he is just shit in this.
Well, I feel like because Justin Long's worked with Kevin Smith a couple times now,
Yeah.
so maybe Kevin Smith is to Justin Long what Tim Burton is to Johnny Depp. They just encourage the overacting and the throwing out of the rule book, and it's just to the detriment of everyone.
Yeah.
Sycophants, some would say.
My last note.
Oh,
just
please
to
tell me
throw it
it's
out.
not about the blowjob scene again.
No, it's just this is a stupid movie and it's great.
I think that sums up your attitude towards it.
Do you know what?
Perfectly.
This would not have been a podcast featuring the two of us where we agreed.
That's
So-
true.
In the grand tradition.
Yeah.
There we go.
Cool. All right. Well,
Cool.
Thank you for sitting through an hour and 10 minutes talking about Tusk with me. It was an experience. Certainly more enjoyable than the film itself. Guys, if you like what we do, if you've enjoyed what you've heard, feel free to leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice. We're on all social media as well. If you want to say hi, just drop us a message. And until next time, stay spooky.
Bye.
Bye.